This is Joe Crispin, former Penn State and professional basketball player. You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
I think you said that he could have gotten more separation.
There were some technique fundamentals in the receiver that weren't perfect in the 80s.
This is Joe Crispin, former Penn State and professional basketball player. You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
I think you said that he could have gotten more separation.
There were some technique fundamentals in the receiver that weren't perfect in the 80s. I had to throw in a few points of critique.
What was it like playing in March Madness? I mean, we have it going on right now.
But playing it was amazing. I mean, like, that's kind of your whole goal is to just be a part of that. It's such a special thing where the whole country is tuning in and anything is really possible, you know.
You know, my optimistic side said, like I said, that we're going to be okay. We just had a bad game. We're probably experimenting a little bit, ran into a good team. So.
If Miami came to our house, we would probably, if anything, win. We wouldn't get blown out.
When you first started playing football, you know, did you always want to play in college?
Nah, I was growing up. I was a big baseball guy. Loved baseball. And then 8th grade, I remember I got a call from my uncle, Coach Nagel. He's like, hey, I got the job. And I was just like, all right, I'll play football for you.
You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast, a podcast by diehard fans for fans. It's as honest and as raw as sports talk can be. Thank you for listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Greg Garrity.
So Anthony Lottie will punt it away from the 41. Greg Garrity is the deep man for Penn State at the 10-yard line.
Former Penn State receiver and 2016 Big Ten champion. You're listening to the best Penn State Nittany Lion podcast, the Mark Lesko Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mark Lesko Podcast. This is one of your hosts, Jared Miller. We're talking college football playoffs, and we're just doing a live college football playoff pregame show. So we're just getting the reactions right now as to where it is in the top 25. They just shown number 14, Ole Miss, and they just shown number 13, Alabama. And right now they just revealed number 12, Clemson. We're getting to that point, seeing where everyone's going to go in the college playoff top 25. Right now it's at 12. Yeah, it's unbelievable what stoked to see where Penn State will be. I mean, I know that we're going to be number 4. We should be. We wouldn't be falling or anything like that. So in the end, we're looking at who is where with the other teams. I think primarily we're like number 6 and 7. And yeah, I'm just getting word that my audio is cracking right now. So I'm not sure what to do to fix that. So I'm just trying to fly solo with this right now, guys. We are looking right now at number 11, Boise State. Yeah, that's going to be one of the teams out. Yeah, they said that right now it's going to be Alabama and Boise State out of the college playoffs. That's incredible. Like, they're right now 10-1. They look like they should have a pretty good season. They look like they have a Heisman candidate. So it's definitely not a huge surprise, but yeah, in the Mountain West, I'm not like BYU. I know is also one of the teams in that conference, but yeah, they should be one of the teams. I'm not really sure how the rest of this is going to go down. I know we're going to be joined by Brett pretty soon here, so. As of right now, number 10 goes to Indiana. I mean, that's where everybody put them at. So that's what the AP Top 25 had them at. I mean, being 10-1, losing to Ohio State like that, it's not a huge surprise. I mean, coming up at number 9 is SMU. Yeah, that's I think they're ACC as well or Big 12. I can't remember exactly. Let me just get that real quick for you guys. So you have SMU, football. Yeah, they're ACC. Okay, so they're in the ACC conference. Yeah, that's where. I mean, 10-1 again. I'm not really sure what they bring with the ACC. I mean, Miami's one of the other teams, and they're showing right now Tennessee at 8. They just moved them up 3 spots. They're at 9-2. I'm not really sure where. So it looks like Miami will be 7th. It should be. I don't know why there wouldn't be anything less. Yeah, it's no. Well, heck, they have them higher than that. So Georgia's number 7, 9-2. Yeah, that's I mean, the SEC, they're going to have their at least 3 or 4 teams, I don't know how Alabama could get in after what they had done against a team like, who did they just play? I think they were held scoreless. They did not score a single touchdown. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I just played Oklahoma and did not score a single touchdown. Like, wow, that's crazy. Number 6 is going to Miami. Wow, yeah. I mean, a lot of teams, got upset this week, so it's. I mean, they've got that one bad loss. I forget who they lost to. Hey, what's going on, bud?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
Oh, watching the reactions to the top 14, seeing where everyone's going right now. I just saw that Notre Dame's going to number 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking up like where Miami was this place. I'm trying to help everybody out with the only loss that Miami has. That would be Florida State at the time. Again, That's just crazy.
Yeah, Miami lost to Georgia Tech, and they should have lost 3 other games.
Yeah, they've had a lot of close games. So they got Penn State at number 4. That's not surprising. Texas is 2. And, of course, it'll be Ohio State and then Oregon. I mean, that's no big surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, they moved Notre Dame up to number 5, which is what I figured they would do. So now it's just like how you have the whole bracket going down. So if I do the bracket right, so they have Oregon on the 1 bye, and then that would put Texas on the other 1. So then they have Miami then going, and then Boise State. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I had that right. I mean, me and Mark were talking about that a while ago where it was going to be either Arizona State or Boise State. I knew that the 4th seed would go to Boise. So then that put Arizona State with the other bracket with Ohio State. Like, they're going to face Ohio State at Ohio State. Huh. So then that would put Indiana with us. That's where it looks. Yeah,
we are playing Indiana.
According to the playoff bracket right now, that Penn State's hosting Indiana. SMU is getting hosted. SMU is getting hosted by Notre Dame, and then you have Tennessee being hosted by Georgia.
No, we want SMU, man. We want SMU or like.
Yes, we do. You're right.
Or Arizona State, but they're pretty decent. But Mark's sick. He wish he could be here, but he's sick. So.
Yeah, I mean, things happen, bud. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Old man's got something. I mean, it's pretty bad. But now, like, so what do you have? I mean, there's really no surprises outside of like what SMU or Indiana. That could have gone either way. You know, they could have put SMU 9 or Indiana 9 and SMU 10. But yeah, everything else seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole list yet. I don't have it on, so I don't. But I'll see it drop here in a minute. But yeah, we stayed at 4. We stayed at 4, which we knew we would.
Yes. So, I mean, what are you looking at for the playoffs? Like, do you see any team like really going forward, like outside of like the top 4? Like, so you have Oregon potentially taking on like either Georgia or Tennessee, like say Tennessee wins that, then they have to go to Oregon. I mean, I'm not saying that there's really no challenge for Oregon, but I mean, I don't see the SEC going in there and making a whole lot of noise. Now, as far as
Tennessee and Georgia are both so hot and cold, you don't know what team you're going to get on each week. And that could be said for most teams at this point. I mean, everybody struggled at some point. We struggled with Minnesota. Oregon struggled with Wisconsin. Every week is so random. I think for the playoffs, people are going to be on such a different level of hungry. But at the same time, there's so many injuries right now for a lot of people. I mean, look at our team. We lost our starting
defensive line, offensive line.
Defensive line, yeah. I mean, I looked at the tape for our game against Minnesota. Do you ever watch For the Bloggy?
No.
Look up For the Bloggy. It's like Penn State film stuff. This one guy, Coach Cadetti, I think is his name. I think he's a high school coach. He does the film breakdown. He does a film breakdown kind of like Landon Tangwell does. But our offensive line, dude, it wasn't even like physical mistakes. It was mental mistakes the entire game against Minnesota. That's why we couldn't run the ball in the first half. Guys were just completely messing up, like completely off page. Like that can be fixed. It's not physical mistakes, but that's not good. Like you got to fix that now. After Maryland, we're about to host our first playoff game at home. Like you got to get that stuff tightened up, man. Like
that's true.
Not a good look. I'm sure other teams do it too, but that was probably the worst game for the offensive line that I've seen. It was bad. I mean, I'm talking. Yeah. Why do you think Drew was getting? He was getting sacked a couple times. He was running around, like wasn't great, man. So yeah, it's hard to say who's going to make noise. You know, it could be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're looking at so we have currently Indiana. I mean, I know that they struggled against Ohio State. That's no surprise. Like, you're always going to be exposed when a team like Ohio State, you know, especially at Ohio State. Now, if this game was in Indiana, I think we would have had a little bit of a different story, maybe in a closer game, but I know that it would have been the same result. I mean, Ohio State, it's a cardinal rule, I think, in the college football playoffs. Like, either Alabama or Ohio State has to be present. Could you imagine a scenario in 12 teams where you don't see Ohio State or Alabama or both? Like, it's not going to happen. So, I mean, it's the forever stamped for the foreseeable century. It's going to be Ohio State and Alabama, one of these teams. Yep. So, yeah, they're always going to be prepared. It's not a question of how they get to the playoffs now, but like how stylistic we all look. And I was watching Colin Cowherd this afternoon, and he was talking about when it came to the college playoffs, like everyone gets a mulligan. Like that's how the playoff structure works now when you have 12 teams in the playoff. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sorry, I'm not allowing that. That's not, no, I won't let someone have a pass on that. Like he talks about like how Alabama had a mulligan against Vanderbilt. So just forget that game. It's like, no, you can't do that. There's no way the committee can look at a 3-loss Alabama team and say, oh, Vanderbilt's not that's a mulligan. Okay, then you didn't score a point against Oklahoma. You didn't score a point, a touchdown against an unranked Oklahoma. So they're not in it. They cannot. I'm sorry. No matter what, you cannot have Alabama in this playoff right now at this very moment. I mean,
that's why I'm 13. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, you then look at a team like Georgia, even if they went out and then they go to the SEC championship and they play a team like Texas. Texas and Georgia. Who was I saying? I just said their names, Jordan. I just totally blanked.
Tennessee or Alabama?
No, but Georgia. So it's like, Texas and Georgia in the SEC championship. And all of a sudden it's like, what if Georgia loses? So then what? You're going to say that a 3-loss team would not be better to put in there than Alabama or Clemson? I mean, I would rather have a team that lost in their championship game to a team that is ranked in the top 5 over a team like Alabama. The resume for them would not be as good looking as, a team like Georgia's. Or
a team that nobody's talking about, I mean, because they need to win their conference championship, but Clemson could still go. Clemson could win.
Yeah, the ACC, you're darn right.
Yeah, they could win, or SMU. SMU's in right now, and I think they deserve where they're at number 9 because they only have 1 loss. And wasn't a great loss, but Oh, Mark says he said happy Thanksgiving though. He told me to tell you guys. So happy Thanksgiving. I mean,
happy
we would have
Thanksgiving,
said
guys.
happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Make sure you eat up good on Thursday, man.
Yeah, rest up and feel better if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Georgia at 7. What were they last week? I think they were around that.
Yeah, I think they were the 6th or 7th. Yeah.
They gave up 31 to UMass, which is just diabolical. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah,
Penn State would never.
that's true.
I mean, that's wild. So that was funny. 31 to UMass is crazy. I mean, they scored like 60, but still.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't. So they put us.
So see, does Georgia? Notre Dame. They play SMU right now. Is that what I saw correctly?
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame would handle them for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They probably win by 2 touchdowns or.
That's the thing about when you're in an independent group. I mean, how can you really judge your season? I mean, you're playing USC this week. For all we know, USC shows up and upsets them. Like, we don't really know how to base Notre Dame's schedule because they're always independent. And who did they have on their schedule this year? Like, I honestly can't name a team off the top of my head who faced anyone in Notre Dame.
They beat Army and Navy. Like, come on, dude. Like,
I mean,
it's not impressive. I'm sorry, but it's just not. What's it called? Notre Dame. The only thing with USC right now is that they're playing a different quarterback now. They're not playing Miller Moss anymore. And Miller Moss made a lot of mistakes, but he all around knew how to play football more. This other guy's like new to football, and he makes some crazy mistakes too. Like UCLA played USC last weekend. Nobody scored a touchdown. It was all field goals. So like, what's going on? You know, like what's that's bad. I mean, so I don't know.
So I mean, like, this is their whole schedule. Like, they barely beat Texas A&M. That was ranked 15th, and then you had Northern Illinois. I mean, is that their only loss? I mean, seriously?
Yeah, but that's a high school team, and you shouldn't lose to them. So that
right. I'm saying, but like somehow you're in the top 5 and you lost to Northern Illinois. What? I mean, yeah, you completely blew out Purdue, which you're supposed to. That's not a tough team. Miami, Ohio. I mean, like, these are teams that are in, like, what, FBS, but just barely. Like, they're not really a part of anything. They're like part of a MAC conference, right? Miami, Ohio.
Like, oh, they beat Miami of Ohio.
Of Ohio, yeah.
Of Ohio.
I mean, they blew out Stanford. They beat Georgia Tech.
Miami of Ohio on a good week could beat Miami. That's how bad their defense is.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, I don't know. Miami's at 6.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's nothing really that impressive on their whole season. I mean, with the exception of just beating out Texas A&M. That's the only team that's ranked right now. Yeah, it's looking like you're talking about, again, Oregon, Texas, Miami, Ohio State, us. I mean, maybe Tennessee. I mean, what does Tennessee have? I mean, they had beaten Alabama. That was their one claim to victory. Who else have they beaten in the SEC? I mean, I know so many schedules, but I don't know these guys'.
Who is Tennessee beat?
Yeah.
Tennessee, here, let's take a look. I mean, so
they lost to Georgia 31-17. I mean,
they destroyed NC State, which, NC State's terrible this year. They beat Oklahoma by 10. At the time, beating Oklahoma by 10 was good because Oklahoma was ranked. And then Oklahoma fell down a tree and broke their neck. And then they beat Alabama last week. So what's going on here? Tennessee beat Florida by 6, but I think Florida had their second or third string quarterback at that point.
Yeah.
They beat Kentucky by 10. Kentucky was randomly good this year for a couple games and then fell off. Georgia slaughtered them a couple weeks ago, right? So they play Vanderbilt Saturday. That could be a good matchup.
Yeah, it's true. But if you look at like
any year before this, but that'd be a good
losing to Arkansas, that's unacceptable. That's a 6-5 team, 3-4 in the conference. You lost 19-14. Yeah, you only gave up 19 points to Arkansas, but they only scored 14 points against their defense. Like,
yeah, that's bad.
I don't know. They're not that much of a threat. I just
Chattanooga. Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat Mississippi State, which is Mississippi State's been on life support since their coach died. So I mean, what are you gonna do there?
I'm not saying like the entire SEC is not like watchable, but like we're looking at how much they've expanded. Like, look what the teams that the Big Ten has expanded with: USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. UCLA is really the only dud. I mean, nothing against the new guys of the town, but of all those teams, they're not as, glitz and glamour as the USCs and Washingtons and Oregons. Like, that's the teams that want to go those places. And UCLA, I mean, they didn't do too bad for a while. Like, they actually went on a little run for a while. I think they're like 5-7 or 6-6 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the worst new team that came into the Big Ten, look at that. Like, that's pretty darn impressive. The teams that we have brought in
with the brand new coach.
Big Ten,
brand new coaches. Yeah, UCLA and Washington, first-year coaches. They both did a phenomenal job with what they had. I think there'll be competitors in the next year or two. They're going to start gaining ground and get more people in the portal. Like, people want to go to Washington and UCLA. More so Washington, but still, I mean, they're going to get better. They have players on both teams.
Right. But as far as the SEC goes, I mean, what do you have? The farthest you can go is Texas or Oklahoma, the Midwest, and Florida. Like, that's it. Like, you're stretching like that much more territory, I guess. But like, if that's your biggest draw, then it's like Oklahoma and Texas. Yeah, I mean, they were the Big 12, juggernauts. People don't understand.
No, go ahead.
But like, you're talking about those two teams that came from the Big 12, and if anyone knows anything about the Big 12, it's big scoring offenses and little defense. And if you know anything about the SEC, it's kind of both. It's big scoring, big defense. Like, they know how to do both. Like, that's why everyone, when you talk about all the different power rankings and conferences, like Big Ten and SEC are always going to be butting heads at who's better, because we both do it really well. We have all sides of things working as well as possible. So, and then you have a team that comes from the Big 12. I mean, you had to endure the Alabamas and the Tennessees and the Georgias. And I mean, again, but like, you look at like what SEC now has, where it's like, did they have the best conference? Because yes, I know that we are always talking about Alabama, Georgia, and at one point Auburn. That's not the case anymore, but it's like Tennessee's kind of creeping in. And now it's Texas who's a part of this, where it's like, okay, so that's 4 or 5 teams. And you have how many in your conference? And you're like, that's like, there's like now what, 13, 14 teams in that whole thing. So it's like only 4 out of 14. I mean,
16,
we're talking about the Big Ten. I'm not trying to be like the spokesperson for the Big Ten, but it's like, geez. Out of the 18 teams we have, man, there's like maybe 6 of them that are bad. Everyone else is competitive. They're 500 or better. So as far as I'm concerned, when you're talking about the college playoffs, it's going to go through primarily a Big Ten school. So if it's not Oregon, if it's not Ohio State, I mean, you're most likely looking at Penn State. I mean, we only have the 4 teams in the Big Ten going to the playoffs. But, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Indiana – they look bad against Ohio State, but who's to say they couldn't beat like a Notre Dame or a Tennessee or a Miami for that matter? I'm not saying that the ACC and the Mountain West cannot be measured by the Big Ten, but if Indiana is the worst Big Ten team in the playoffs, like, imagine that. Like, that's pretty impressive looking at all the standings.
If Indiana plays like flawless, they could beat us. If they play like they did against Ohio State, we could beat them easily. I mean, look at the score of our game versus Ohio State. We lost by a touchdown. Had a chance to win that game. They got throttled by Ohio State. They got completely slaughtered. They scored a touchdown late to make it look closer. It was never close. Our game versus Ohio State was close most of the time. My favorite part about this last weekend was the weekend before. People remember the SEC people were saying, "Oh, these 2 last teams are better than these 1 lost Big Ten teams. They deserve a chance." And then what happened this last weekend? The SEC shit the bed. They fell down a cliff, broke both their ankles, injured their hip, everything, dude. They're in complete disarray. Complete disarray. A dumpster fire of a conference right now. And Yeah, some of the top-heavy SEC games have been very competitive, and I applaud them for that. That there's been very competitive games. But when your name's Texas A&M and you go into like a 4-6 Auburn team and you lose, I'm sorry, but that's not okay. You can't do that. You can't do that. No. And then when your name's Alabama and you go to Oklahoma and you score three points, not 3 points in the first quarter, not 3 points in the first half, 3 points in the whole freaking game, dude. Yeah. If you were UMass, that would be respectable, but UMass put up 31 on Georgia, so that doesn't make sense. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, you can't crap the bed that bad, and then now you know you don't have a case, and now you know you're not getting in, and we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to put up with the SEC bias, and the committee sure as hell isn't either. Look at the rankings. It pretty much proves that we're not going to treat you specially because you're from the SEC. So kick rocks, win your games, and then maybe we can talk about it.
Right. I mean, again, you're talking Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Of those three teams, yes, Texas is obviously the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, whoever wins between Indiana and Notre Dame has to take on Texas. Now, again, let's just hypothetical. Like, let's go through all these here. So the first round, let's start with Boise State and Ohio State. Let's move on. Georgia and Tennessee. Right, I'm just saying, let's move on. So Tennessee and Georgia.
Tennessee could beat them if Oregon struggles. I mean, it's possible. Tennessee has a good defense. We know that. If their offense plays badly, like it has in half their games, Oregon will gut them. If they somehow show up on offense and run the ball, and then they could compete with Oregon. Oregon struggle with Wisconsin. So we don't really, like I said, each and every week, it's college football. That's why we love it, because it's very exciting and things can happen. I think that what's funny, when we were predicting the slots, we didn't say anything about us playing Indiana. We thought we were getting SMU. So I think it's interesting. I think that's interesting how Notre Dame got SMU and we got Indiana. We stayed at a 6 seed, which is good. We want to be a 6 seed. 5 is the best seed, obviously. Look at Ohio State. They play Arizona State. Obviously, the best
easy street.
Yeah, they got easy street.
Easy street. Yes.
Yeah, and we didn't get Elm Street, but we could certainly get there. We didn't get that. I'll tell you who got Elm Street. I think SMU got Elm Street against Notre Dame.
Yes, the fact that you got to go to Notre Dame, and if that you're lucky, you got to face Texas. Man,
they got Elm Street, man. They got gutted, and
so number 9, yeah. So number 9, whoever number 9 is in future things, you don't want to be that team essentially, because you have to face the number 5 team, essentially number 7, whatever you want to say, and then the number 2. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough road.
I like Indiana at our house, though. I don't know, not that Indiana is a hard place to play at, but I like us at our house playing Indiana and then getting Miami, right? For us to get Miami, let's show Miami that their defense is terrible, and I think our offense will look like Ohio State's offense if we play them.
Right.
It will.
Again, as far as the ACC is concerned, I mean, you're talking about Clemson, Miami, or SMU. I mean, I know that those teams have been kind of collectively been around the top 10 or in the top 10. So they've been collectively having good seasons. So the committee obviously thinks that the ACC has decent teams up on the top. So I'm not saying that you're looking at, like, if we were to take on Indiana, I think what we would have to do is just run heavy. Like just the Singleton and Allen, duo, just go nuts on them, let them do their thing, and Drew Aller just kind of throw a 30-yard pass, like maybe in the end zone to Warren. Just kind of mix it up once in a while to Warren, like give the ball to Warren, throw the ball to Warren, let Warren kick the ball, let him coach on the sideline, let him get refreshments, let him park the cars. Like, he can do it all. Like, I'm just saying, we're talking about the game plan of, like, can we just maul them down? Like, it seems like Indiana in the past, and certainly in this case this year, has kind of been like a fast team. Like, they always run their plays quick. Like, they'll get the gun, they're getting the lineup good. You don't have to huddle. They're good. They're going. They're just playing. And then the next play right down the field. Like, they do a whole drive like within a second. Like, they're pretty quick. So the only way you're talking about shutting it down is just defensively. You're going to have to just know how to either stop whatever they're going to do. Like, can their offense find their guys in the end zone? Our quarterbacks are going to have to be prepared for them, because I know they like to throw the ball. They have a pretty good quarterback. I'm not sure his numbers this year, but I know he has one of the better numbers in the Big Ten. So you take care of that with them.
Yeah, Curtis Rourke. Yeah, Ohio State shut him down for the most part, but he's been good in other games. This is the thing. I'm a little worried. Tom Allen has to get things cleaned up, and it's on the players too. Our Minnesota game was the worst defensive performance I've seen us play. And other than USC obviously put up more points. And if you think about it, our special teams kind of gift-wrapped at 9 points. So, but there were some concerns on, like, tackling, and, I mean, they were holding us too. So it's hard to say. But I thought it was kind of funny how Tom Allen came out on the semifinalist for the Broyles Award today for the best assistant coach in college football. He's on the finalist list. And he's been good this year. He's been good this year, but this past Saturday, that needs cleaned up, man. And like you were saying about running the ball in Indiana, we do have to do that. And I was talking about those mental errors. You need to get that fixed, or Indiana has some good defensive linemen, man. They have that dude on the edge, Kamara, I think's his name. He's got like 9 sacks, bunch of tackles for loss. So we got to get that stuff cleaned up if we want to run on Indiana, because they're no slouch. Ohio State was just prepared for them, and everything that could go wrong for Indiana in that game went wrong. So that's like they were trying to punt it and they fumbled it, like everything that could go wrong. So
I call it the OSC. Like what I call the OSC is the Ohio State curse. Like if you don't really know what you're going into with Ohio State, where it's like Indiana had all of the momentum in the world. Like they were on top of everything. Like they were the darlings of the NCAA. And then they went into Ohio State, and then the pumpkin, the clock struck 12. They turned into a pumpkin again. That's just kind of what OSC is all about. Ohio State.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it follows them too. I mean, we witnessed what happened with the with our game. We lost by a touchdown, but again, it's like. Again, you go back to like some officiating things, and we didn't execute things right. They knew how to have answers for whatever we were trying to do, whatever. Like they shut Warren down, and then all of a sudden Clifford and Wallace and Fleming, like no one was around. Like everyone just went away. No. Like we couldn't find anyone to do anything with it. So you're talking about a team like Indiana. I mean, what do you have? The whole record is based off of like the lesser side of the Big Ten. Like I was shocked to see how high they got with the schedule they had. I know you can't pick your schedule, but when you are 101th ranked in terms of strength of schedule, how do you not just basically be like, I'm not concerned with this, where, you were blowing out every team you played, but that's the thing. You were facing the weakest side of the Big Ten. I mean, you had what challenge? What challenge did they have outside of
the strength of schedule was so bad. Listen, I don't think most people know this. The strength of schedule was put in before the Ohio State game, like on what it really was. So after the Ohio State game, their strength of schedule was like 65. That's how bad their schedule was before that game. Like it went down 40-some slots. So, but I mean, ours is like 33 or something. So our schedule is respectable. It's not.
That was the word I was thinking. That was exactly
it's respectable. It really is. I mean. And this is the thing, you can't choose your schedule. The Big Ten failed Indiana. Like, it gave them a good story, but they failed them on trying to make it more level with other. Like, look at UCLA's schedule was very hard. Or who else's was? Purdue's schedule was awful, dude. Purdue had to play.
Yes.
Purdue played everybody, and they're the worst team in the Big Ten. Like, you got to feel bad for them. They had to play all the top dogs. So, like, you should have leveled it out more. What the problem is, these protected rivalries that they kept for these teams, like obviously Michigan, Ohio State are to play every year. Minnesota, Illinois, I think's one. They kept all these protected rivalries, which messed up some other schedules. That's what happened, because whenever you do that, you're making other teams have to play different teams because that team's already taken for the rivalry game. So Indiana's schedule might be. We'll have to look at it for next year. I'm sure it's a little bit harder, but our schedule next year is harder than it is this year. I'll tell you that. We play Oregon next year. So we don't play Michigan again next year. How crazy is that? We play Ohio State again. We don't play Michigan. Wow. We don't play Michigan until 2026, man. And that's just how it worked out because we don't have rivalries, which is kind of weird because we want them now. We want to take them down and show these cheaters that we're not going to put up with this shit, man. We're not going to put up with it. I wanted to talk about a lot of people were upset about Boise State. Boise State's schedule is awful. They don't play anybody. They almost lost to Nevada. They almost lost to Idaho, they almost lost to some other team. But the funny thing is they played it really close with Oregon, so like it's kind of saved them. But here, let me look at Boise State's. And they're getting shot up on the rankings. Obviously, if they win their conference, they should go in.
Right.
But they're getting shot up because of Ashton Genty, because of the running back. The rest of the team's terrible.
Yeah.
Listen, the rest of the team is not good at all. It's seriously just the running back. Look at this. So they started off. Colorado State beat them by 1. Colorado State is not a good team. They're very bad.
Yes.
And then Fresno. No, this is last year. Sorry. Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, so they beat Georgia Southern.
Yep.
56-45. They gave up 45 points to Georgia Southern, which is just atrociously off. Like, that's bad. They beat Portland
What's Ohio
State.
State going to do to them?
It's going to be bad. So Boise State's second game, they beat Portland State 56-14. That's all great and dandy, but have you ever heard of Portland State? No, you haven't. They beat Utah State 62-30. Not a good team either. And then they beat UNLV, which UNLV is respectable. They're ranked. It's a good year for them. They beat them by 5, so that's probably their best win right there because it's a ranked win. And then they only beat Nevada by 7. Nevada's terrible. They beat Wyoming 17-13. Wyoming.
Yeah.
And then their schedule's done. Wait, no, they beat. Let's see. Yeah, they lost to Oregon by 3, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
They beat Washington State up, which Washington State's respectable. They're not bad.
Yeah, they're like 7-4, 8-3. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They beat Hawaii. Hawaii's, they've been on life support as long as I've ever known. They beat San Diego State by a bunch. That's fine. That's not a good team.
Yeah.
They beat San Jose State, and now they play Oregon State, and Oregon State's not very good. They play them on Friday night at 12 p.m. Friday night at 12 p.m. What?
Midnight game.
A noon game?
Yeah.
It's a noon game. That's weird. So yeah, that's Boise State's schedule. And all that was done because of Ashton Genty. Look at their defense. They gave up holy cow, so many points. So
I'm just saying, you look at Mountain West, and you look at the Big 12 right now where it stands. You're looking at all the other Big 10 and SEC where if that's always going to be the comparison now with these Power 5, with this 12-team bracket where, I mean, you're going to seriously consider Ohio State with Boise State for a second? Like, are you going to literally just look at that game and be like, all right, I see you guys and I see you guys? It's basically being like, that scene in The Blind Side where Michael Orr takes on that really skinny offensive dude or defensive player. He just goes like that. Like, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I mean, in your head, as a fan of college football, that is the kind of matchup you're looking at. Like, it's just like you're coming at me.
Yeah.
Stop. Like it is just really what it is. I'm not saying nobody doesn't deserve a shot, but that's the thing about this. You got to start considering everybody in this mix. Like, if you're talking about teams that are going to collectively be in the Power 5 conferences, you're going to have to give them schedules that kind of give them an idea of what they're going to go into. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying you got to schedule Oregon or Texas on your off season, whatever, but you have to consider something in the middle or above. Like, if you want to start considering a team like Wisconsin, they're respectable, they're constantly a 7-4, 6-5 team. You put them on your offseason and you beat them, then you're like, okay, you may not have beat a ranked team, but they have a good record and they're constantly a winning team. So then the committee will be like, all right, then we have no choice but to know that they actually deserve to be there. Like you just said,
won with the backup quarterback. We won with the backup quarterback, Bo. He played fantastic. And they probably looked at that and they were like, all right, well, if Drew gets hurt, okay, that's fine. They have Bo. He's really good, Yes. What's funny about Texas, right? Their schedule's not good. But it was supposed to be good because they were like, oh, they scheduled a big boy. And in the beginning of the season they played Michigan. Then we found out Michigan was a toddler, not a big boy. So and then they throttled them. So, but Texas they haven't been impressive in a while. Their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, he's good when he was healthy, but ever since he got hurt, he's like throwing pick sixes and just doing weird stuff. Like it doesn't. They're not that scary. They have a good defense, sure, but their offense is hit or miss. So, I mean, they're the number 3 team in the country because they have one loss. That's the same thing as us. We have one loss. Okay, we're up there. But Texas, not super impressed with them. I wouldn't say I'd want to play them. It'd be a fun game, though. When's the last time we played Texas? It's been a long time.
Gosh, I mean, you're looking at, what, 10, 15 years when we played them, I think, in a bowl game?
Yeah. I mean, we played Georgia. We played Georgia in, like, 2015, right, in the bowl game. So we played them recently in, like, the last 9 years. We have not played – when's the last time we played Notre Dame? Maybe 10 years ago.
Isn't that the 90s?
Or has it been that long?
No, that was like late 2000s, like 2006 or 7. We throttled them.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah,
that.
we did. We played them. You're right. 2007, we played them. That's actually that's the year, and that was the craziest year of college football, other than this year. Was 2007.
Yes. That was the Appalachian State one upset, right? Isn't that the greatest upset?
Yep,
I mean, it's still there. I can remember it.
2007 was the craziest season other than this year, and that's why we're so excited. Because I mean, look, SMU and Arizona State. Who would have thought? Great stories. You got to be happy for both programs. I don't hate either school, so like, good for them. There's certain schools I don't care for, and I don't mind either of those teams. I actually had to look up. I had to look up SMU to see what it stood for. Like, I've always seen the initials and knew the team.
Southern Methodist or something like that?
Yeah, Southern Methodist. It's a Dallas school. It's in Dallas.
Yes.
But like, I didn't know where it was. I knew it was a Southern school. It looks like it'd be like Southern Mississippi or Southern Missouri or something, right? But it's Dallas.
Right.
So,
but I mean, like,
and you call me an idiot for not knowing it, but I just knew them by the Mustangs. So.
Right, but I mean, so I'm right now looking at the SMU schedule. Like, so you're looking at these teams. You beat Nevada by 5. You beat Nevada by 5. Like Nevada, okay. And then HCU. Can you tell me what the mascot for HCU is? Do you want to take a guess? It's an animal.
It's an animal.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, can you even say what the tell me what HCU stands for? You talk about SMU. Yeah. They throttled them, and then they lost to BYU at home. At home, 18-15.
It's a bad loss. It was a bad loss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then they played TCU. Do you know this score? Are you looking at it?
66-42 is great.
I'm just saying, if you're not looking at it, go find it. That's insane.
Did they accidentally put a basketball team score on here? Because that's what
I think that was the goat. Yeah, that must have been the joke.
They beat Louisville, but Louisville was good until they lost to Stanford, which you should not lose to Stanford if your name's Louisville.
Right. And it was at Louisville. Yeah, I mean, it was at Louisville. They won by a touchdown.
They beat Duke by 1. It's respectable.
Going to Stanford, everyone's beating Stanford all of a sudden. I remember, 10, 12 years ago with Andrew Luck, Stanford was like the most prolific Pac-12 team at one point. It was pretty remarkable how it's they've really fallen from grace.
And you're going to love this. They throttled Pitt, which is just fantastic that they throttled them.
Yeah. I mean, you look at SMU and Duke. I mean, you went to Duke and you had to go into overtime to beat Duke. That was a statement because, again, Manny Ramirez and them had all the opportunity to do something. Because I know at one point they were 6-1 or 5-0 or whatever, and they beat them. So that was a good win. And then again, at the time, Pitt was really ranked. I think they were 18th or 17th, and then they took on SMU, and SMU went to town. So. Yeah, Boston College, you won by 10, and you throttled Virginia. And you're ending your season with California.
And California is decent this year. Decent. Yeah.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, you're talking about teams like SMU and Arizona State. I mean, I think Arizona State is actually the more, I think they're the Indiana of the West.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better than SMU in the playoff. I think they'll put up more of a fight. They have Scattaboo, which is the best name ever. Their running back, his last name is Scattaboo. It's fantastic.
That is a fantastic name. You're right.
Scattaboo, man. It sounds like somebody made that up on PlayStation. That's their PlayStation user tag.
So I'm a big jazz person. That sounds like something you said back in the day. That sounds like, you're doing your Scattaboo.
Yep.
But like, so what did you have? You had in their season, they beat Wyoming, they throttled them, and they beat Mississippi State by a touchdown. They barely beat Texas State. Barely beat Texas State, and they lost to Texas Tech.
We're still figuring things out, okay? Just let them.
I mean, so you had Kansas at home, and you barely beat them. You barely beat Utah. You got beaten by Cincinnati. You got beaten by Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's not good.
That is not good. I mean, they're 11 in the Big 12. I mean, yay.
They beat UCF.
It was okay, but yeah, but then you went out to
Kansas State.
UCF. Yep, you beat Oklahoma State. Then you beat.
They got better as the year went on.
Then you beat Kansas State and BYU. Like, you ended with 2 ranked teams. So I mean, it's a collectively good schedule for them. I mean, they had a couple ranked teams and they beat them. I mean, it was a pretty respectable result.
Better than SMU.
I'm saying if you talk about SMU and Arizona State, I would say I would lean more towards Arizona State's respectable schedule and season.
Yeah,
I would say that they have a better chance. Like you saying who they play. Yeah, the winner of Ohio State. Like, I mean, if you're talking about Boise State and Arizona State, who do you have in that one? If you were to say that game, like if they were to face each other, who would you take?
Arizona State or Boise?
Yeah, if those two were to face each other.
Arizona State, I would take them. Yeah,
right.
Because unless Ashton Genty wins a game by himself, which he could, I think Arizona State would run all over Boise State. They have a good running back too, Scatterbo.
Yeah. I want to hear that when they play Ohio State. I'm just like, Scatterbo goes all, all over Ohio State. I mean, there's got to be some rhyme you can do with that.
Yeah. Just imagine the front page of the paper. Scatterbo skates by, I don't know. It'd be a good headline. But
it's like because of Scatterbo, Ohio State it says boo boo. Boo hoo.
Arizona State has some decent receivers too, and I don't think Boise State has that. So that's why I would take Arizona State. Because if Boise State somehow stops the run, which their defense isn't good, I don't think they will, they'll air it out a little bit on them. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that'd be a good game, actually.
But, I mean, listen, you're talking about Ohio State like they're not, touchable, which it's like, they're always in every game. They know how to collectively have everything. But we have constantly said, when it comes to Ohio State's weakness, Will Howard is not the greatest Ohio State quarterback in any category. Like, if you look at all the Ohio State quarterbacks that they have had, name me one that just doesn't really fit like that, like he did. Like, there was never a time where I didn't think Ohio State didn't have a good one between Terrell Pryor, and there's then C.J. Stroud, and we have him on the Steelers right now, and I'm blanking on his name. The backup. What's his name?
The backup quarterback where?
For us, for Pittsburgh. Gosh darn, I'm just blanking. Russell Wilson and he's our backup. No, Justin Fields. Fields. That's it. Yeah.
Justin Fields. Yeah.
So you have all these different quarterbacks.
Your guy's backup quarterback. He's not mine. Okay.
No, I'm saying my quarterback. That's what I'm saying. I totally blanked on Justin Fields' name for some reason because it's not difficult to remember. But look at Will Howard. Like, give me any other team that has that kind of reputation for great quarterbacks, and then Howard is not up there. I mean, so could anyone take advantage of him turning the ball over? I mean, I think Arizona State could very well be an upset for sure. There's no way that you can say that Ohio State collectively has done everything right because, again, you're always one of the better teams in the conference, and the reason why you lost the Oregon game was because the quarterback decided to hold on to the ball for 50 seconds when you only had 10 seconds left in that game, and then he slid. It was basically -6 by the time he finally slid or got up. I mean, it was the worst look, I'd say, in a big major game in a long time. You lost your game because you slid and you did not know what time was on the clock. It's crazy. So, what we're looking at with teams like Oregon, I expect – say the head coach's name for Oregon.
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning. I mean, he's obviously one of the better coaches in all of the college football. I mean, Texas I don't know. I mean, like you said, the inconsistency was with the pick sixes, and the quarterback hasn't played up to his elite status. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, you're looking at all the quarterbacks for the entire landscape. Give me one that's off the top of your head that like makes you go, ooh. Like, I mean, Cam Ward, like that's
Cam
from
Ward.
Miami, but
Cam Ward, but the team's kryptonite would be a competent offense because their defense is atrocious. So any of these teams, hey, this is a good idea, right? I'm looking at the bracket that they have today. Let's pick the Final Four on what's going to show what we think the Final Four is going to be. If this ended today, what our Final Four be? I'll go first. All right, let's do this. So Penn State beats Indiana at home. I got us right. I got us round one. I got us going. So I'll do this. I got us going. Would it be at Miami?
Yeah, be at Miami.
Miami doesn't have, they don't have fans at the stadium. They might for that game, obviously, but they don't have fans there. Weird. I'm not afraid of that. Us playing in the heat. We get a lot of
Wait, time out. I'm trying to think about this actually. Because if they're number 8, and we're number 4, but if they're going off of the actual bracket, we would actually have the home field. I'm saying because we're number 4 and they're number 8. But if they're going off of
the playoff brackets, we would be 6. Yeah. So we play Indiana. So we beat Indiana at home. Then we go to wherever the game's at. We play Miami. I think we can beat Miami. I don't think if Cam Ward has a crazy game, we could lose to Miami, sure. Yeah. But I got us beating Miami. I got us going to the Final Four with that bracket right there. I got us going to the Final freaking Four, baby. Let's go, Penn State. And then the other side over here, Notre Dame will show. They'll send the freaking SMU Mustangs back to Dallas. Okay, they'll send them home. Yeah. Notre Dame will play Texas. That's a really good matchup. I like that matchup between Notre Dame and Texas.
Yes, it is neutral side. Yes, because we get the quarterfinals and they go to the bowl game. Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Yeah, my man Smouch. It's my man Smouch. It's his nickname. Nice. Call him Smouch. Say hey, Smouch.
Smouch. Thank you, Smouch.
So we'll beat Miami, and I know Smouch's brother's a Miami fan, so I'm sorry, but he's a Penn State fan, so he's completely okay with it, so he's fine. We'll beat Miami in a neutral field. After we beat Miami, we'll go to the Final Four. I'll get to the other teams once I do the other side. So Penn State going to the Final Four after that bracket, and then we got Notre Dame beating SMU, and then I think Notre Dame could possibly upset Texas. It depends on the quarterback play. I think I'm going to take Notre Dame to beat Texas. It's a risk, but this is college football, baby. Things happen. Yeah. So I got Notre Dame going to the Final Four, and guess what that sets up? A game Notre Dame Penn State on a neutral field. That's a gut punching game. That's a physical game there on a neutral field. So on one side it'll be in the Final Four. It'll be Penn State Notre Dame. Now let's go up top. We got Georgia Tennessee. I got Georgia beating Tennessee again. They already handled business. I think they'll do it again. Then you got Georgia, Oregon. I can see Georgia beating Oregon, man. It depends on what offense we'll see from Georgia. It really depends. I think Georgia's going to figure it out. I think Georgia's going to figure it out, and their defense will give Oregon some problems. Mm-hmm. I got Georgia upsetting Oregon right now. It sounds crazy, but I'm picking some upsets. So I got Georgia upsetting Oregon. So that means Georgia will go to the Final Four. And then we got Ohio State, Arizona State. That's not fair. I feel bad for Arizona State. Right. Ohio State will play Boise State next. They will gut them by 25. Ohio State will play Georgia in the Final Four. So your Final Four, ladies and gentlemen, is Georgia versus Ohio State, Penn State versus Notre Dame. If the bracket ended today, with this bracket that they showed, I'm not saying like in general. If this is the bracket that we're going to get, which it's probably going to fluctuate, let's be honest. It's going to change a little bit. But as of today, I got Notre Dame, Penn State, Georgia, and Ohio State. I got Ohio State beating Georgia.
Okay.
I got Ohio State beating Georgia. I don't know if we can beat Notre Dame. I think we can. It just depends on. They have a good defense, okay? They have a good defense. It could give us some trouble. They have good cornerbacks, good safety play. I think I'm going to take us to beat Notre. I think I'm going to take us to beat Notre Dame, and then we play Ohio State rematch. It sounds biased, but our bracket wouldn't be that crazy. Think about it. We play Indiana, then Miami, and then we play Notre Dame. Notre Dame would be our toughest game yet out of all those games. If we can squeak by Notre Dame 1-2 points, whatever it is, we play Ohio State in the championship.
Right.
Now pick yours. Yours.
Wow.
I'm
not saying the entire South. I'm not saying the entire South and West would shut down for that game, but I'm just saying pretty much Midwest and North would be the only ones watching that game. Just letting you know that. Okay, but so for me personally, yeah. So you got Penn State then taking on Indiana. Naturally, I have Penn State beating Indiana. Now I'll give scores to this. I'll be a little more intriguing on it. I think this game will be 38-31. Penn State. I do think Indiana is going to give our defense that much of a fit, but I also do think that Drew Aller and company will have enough of a game plan to actually execute, be at home, have the opportunity. Now we're going to give up a touchdown late. Like we're going to be like 4 minutes into the fourth quarter, like left in the fourth quarter. We'll be up 38. What would that put us at? 38-24, and they'll score a touchdown, make it a little interesting, and they'll try to do the onside kick. We'll recover, and we'll kneel 38-31. Penn State goes on. So you have then Notre Dame taking on SMU. You're going to hate me for saying this, but I'm actually going to pick the upset in that one.
Ooh,
I'm actually going to go SMU over Notre Dame.
These are predictions based off of the bracket we see.
Right.
I mean,
I'm just saying. I just have this. I have a sneaky feeling that a team like Notre Dame, with as much of a reputation as they have, I know it's going to be in Notre Dame. I do get that, but there's just something about like SMU that it's like they're actually going to come out and give them everything they've got. And I just feel like it's going to be one of those like shootouts where, again, I think it's going to be like a 31-28, like a late field goal seals it for SMU and upsets.
Okay.
And then I have SMU then going on and taking Texas. That all Texas matchup there. And then on the other side, Boise State.
Yeah.
So you have Ohio State taking on Boise State. Next team. Georgia and Tennessee. I think that this is going to be really, really close, but I am going to pick Georgia very, very close. Like, we're talking like literally a point. I'm thinking 28-27. It's going to be like by 1 point. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy close game, but I do think that Kirby Smart and company will figure out a way to get themselves into the next round to take on Oregon. Now, as far as Arizona State and Ohio State are concerned, I'll move on after that for the quarterfinals. I have Arizona State taking on Ohio State. I think it's going to be closer than what people think. Like, they're going to actually push them. I think that the Scatadoo is going to actually really do some damage to the Ohio State defense. I mean, I want to see it so bad. But like you said, headlines, the headline will read, boo-hoo Scatadoo. That's what it's going to read. Ohio State squeaks out the win. Boo-hoo Scatadoo. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. It's going to be like 30-24 Ohio State. So I'm picking them. And then against Georgia and Oregon, I'm sorry, I'm going to be kind of boring. I think Oregon's going to handle them. I have this feeling they're just, So, I mean, I think it's going to be like pretty embarrassing, actually. I think it's going to be like 35-20. It's not going to be close. I think Oregon's going to be rested and they're going to take care of business. So we're going to see a rematch for potentially the third time. We're going to see for the third time. Oregon take on Ohio State. But so then we move on to the other side. Texas, SMU. Texas throttles SMU. Throttles them. Doesn't even let them in the building practically. Like 42-14. It's going to be embarrassing. Yeah. That's my feeling. I just think they're going to kick their barn doors down. So Texas goes on to the Final Four, and Miami and Penn State. Cam Ward, Drew Aller. I don't know their running backs' names, but I do know our guys' names. I know Tyler Warren. I can't think of their tight end. I don't even know their coach's name. But guys, we are going to take on Miami in neutral territory. And it's going to be to the date James Franklin's most impressive win. It's going to be, given the circumstances, going to the quarterfinals, going neutral down in Florida. Not all the games are in Florida. All of the big time playoff and bowl games are in Florida. So it's almost a home game for Miami. But we're still going to find a way to take care of business. It's going to be a 38-year revisit of the last national championship. It's going to haunt them again. I think that Penn State takes care of business, and they're going to win it 28-21. Just a pretty straightforward score, nothing fancy. We have 4 touchdowns. They'll have 3. We'll win. So then that puts us against Texas in our semifinals. Semifinals. I have the Final 4, Penn State, Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. Oregon takes on Ohio State.
I forgot to say who was going to win in that. My predictions. I had Ohio State beating us by 3. If this bracket, like I said, pans out, I got Ohio State beating us by 3. It's going to be a gut wrenching loss. We'll be out of it. We won't be able to speak for a week, so maybe 2 weeks because we haven't been in the Natty in 40 years. So it'll be a rough loss. But go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to.
All right, no problem. You're fine.
Yeah.
So Oregon takes on Ohio State. O versus O. Like, this is the new thing with them. 0 versus 0, but it's for the 3rd time. They're going to face each other in the Big Ten championships. And for the 3rd straight time, Oregon will upset Ohio State. They will go 0-3 against Oregon this season. It will be the new thorn in Ohio State's side. You are no longer the kings of the Big Ten. It is Oregon. They are green and they're Ducks. It's no longer the Buckeye. The Ducks are now the kings of the Big Ten, and they're going to make you hate it. So that's my prediction. Oregon is going to be the representative for the national championship. Texas and Penn State. It's so close, guys. I know. I feel like I'm putting on some Cinderella moment for it. And what you have is a team like Texas that knows how to be noisy, that knows how to bring it all. And Penn State's never been in this situation before, at least with James Franklin. I know Mark is probably shaking his head like, how dare you go in this direction? But I will say that the week before was James Franklin's most impressive victory. Yeah. And this one will replace it. This one will replace it. Yes, sir. So I have Penn State winning the game against Texas.
Penn State, Oregon.
Yep, I have Penn State beating Texas. Yep. I have Penn State rightfully playing Oregon in the national championship 30 years later. 94, both teams could have been in the national championship game, but we settled for the Rose Bowl. So it's the Rose Bowl 30 years later, but in a different atmosphere in the national championship. Penn State's first visit in 38 years. More than I have been alive, more than you have been alive.
Yep.
About 80% of the people that watch Penn State were alive. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be one of, if not the most unique championships, because it is 2 Big Ten teams, but I don't have it against Ohio State. I have it against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it is going to be grit and grind. Everything will be shown on the field. We come up short. Yeah. We go down the field, but it comes up short. And I have the winners of this national championship being the Oregon Ducks, 27-24. And if that were to be the real case, us going all the way to the championship and just missing out, I would respect James Franklin in a way that I don't think I could possibly have given him. Because, again, you're talking about something that we have been wanting from Penn State for so long, have not seen, and he has not delivered up until this point. We have gotten to bowl games. We have gotten to that point, and we have faced very good opponents. But it's more head shaking than it is cheer. So if you were to have that pulled off, Penn State get all the way to the national championship and just lose by 3 points, and nothing went wrong. You know, we faced them tough. They get a big touchdown. We get a big touchdown. Like, we push it in. We stop them for 1 big yard. Maybe we look like we have a shot, but then they get a ball back again. Then they score and they go up on us. And we'll be up. So what is that? Yeah, it's 27-17. We have to score the touchdown, and there's like 6 minutes left. We stop Oregon. And it's like, okay, so it's 27-24. They pin us back at the 15, and we have 3 minutes left. And then we just kind of get to the midfield point, and then they get pressure, and things just happen, and Drew Aller just out of the reach, and, you know, just don't have the guy, and then it's just 4th and 10 at the 50. Wouldn't get it. You know, I'm just saying it would be a thrill to see them go that far, even if they weren't meant to be there. Like, and again, for all I know, Texas would beat the snot out of us, and hell, maybe even Miami would beat the hell out of us. But I'm going to make it kind of like the biggest moment for them, like, because they deserve that. Like, for many, many years, we have watched Penn State have a shot, not really get there, not deserve it because some things happen, and we looked outplayed. Like, there's been many times where I've watched a James Franklin-led team, and you're just like, you're outcoached. The other team knew how to defend. They knew how to prepare, and we just aren't there yet. So now we're talking a 12-team playoff, and anytime that you get into that kind of bracket thing, anything is possible. You could get, like, again, Penn State 23 years ago, when they went to the basketball and they went into March Madness, they got all the way to the Sweet 16. I will bet you not one analyst had them even close to the Sweet 16. No. Probably didn't get them out of the freaking first round. So get them into a bracket setup and watch what happens. So that's my prediction.
That's what I said. We have a favorable. We got a little lucky. If we get the 6th seed, that's a favorable matchup. I think it's more favorable if Notre Dame upsets Texas. I think I'd rather play Notre Dame than Texas. That's maybe that's why I went that route, but I also feel that Notre Dame, although they haven't beaten anybody crazy, they're beating the heck out of people right now. So, I think they're playing their best ball right now, and they're a very respectable opponent. So, I think, isn't that crazy to look at the predictions we just did, and we have Penn State going to the net? And maybe it's a little bit of bias in the heart, because it's just we've been craving it so bad. Maybe a little bit biased, but the best part is any team on these brackets is beatable, and that's why this year is so good. There's nobody who's a juggernaut. People might think Ohio State and Oregon are juggernauts. They both struggled with lesser opponents. So my reasoning for putting Penn State in the national championship is 2 reasons. Number one, you look at, again, like I just named all the quarterbacks in the entire brackets for this year's first 12-team playoff. Name me another quarterback who is better than Drew Aller. Can you say, without hesitation, that Cam Ward is not the best quarterback of all of those quarterbacks? I know Oregon's is good too. I know he is good too, but I don't hear any names in these guys with big things happening for them. So I'm saying Drew Aller, I trust him enough to say that he has out of all the quarterbacks in these 12 teams, he's the 4th or 3rd best quarterback, by their numbers. I just think that's my logic for that. Number 2 is the Heisman. Look at the Heisman. Travis Hunter, Colorado, not getting in. No. Alshon Jeffrey, or how do you say his name, the Boise State guy? What'd you say?
Boise State's the representative, the quarterback for, is he the quarterback or the running back for Boise State?
Ashton Genty,
Ashton Genty, So you have him for that. He's not going beyond, and then you have Cam Ward as the quarterback for Miami. So that's your options. And then Tyler Warren, the representative for Penn State right now. He's 6th or 5th in the voting. I'm just saying we have a guy that's potentially a Heisman candidate in the playoffs potentially going. And I'm saying those are my 2 reasons where it's you look at the whole teams collectively. Yes, Oregon has the better numbers. Ohio State is ahead of us. The teams that are ahead of Penn State, Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, they're going to play each other.
The crazy thing about Tyler, think about it. Yeah. If Tyler Warren has the exact game he just did against who we just played, Minnesota, he breaks 1,000 yards in the regular season. And that's receiving yards. He has 150 rushing yards. He has over 900 receiving yards. He only has five receiving touchdowns, but he has three rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. So he has 9 touchdowns, which he should have more touchdowns. That's just how things worked out. But
right. So, I mean, I'm just looking at the whole landscape of these brackets where it's like, yeah, I like our seating. I like what we have collectively. Like, there's a lot of talent on this team. We keep mentioning Penn State's defense is always one of the best in the country. And, you know, Drew Aller's finally getting some good play calling. Execution, like, it's not consistent, but they're not doing anything truly to lose games, because they have only lost the one game, but that's because, again, you just have those pressures.
The special teams miscues cannot happen again, or we'll lose.
Right.
That cannot happen again. That was a fluke game with their special teams. It's never that bad, and we made up for it on the fake punt. We made up for it, but that cannot happen in the playoff, or we'll lose any of these games. We cannot let that happen. We can't.
So yeah, your path to the championship, Indiana right now. Indiana, Miami, Texas, or Notre Dame. I'm just saying, like, or SMU. I'm just saying. Crazy things have happened, dude. We know this. So I'm just saying I like what we have. It's the best situation you could have had. Like, honestly. Like, outside of Ohio State, like with the easy street, like, it's not that terrible. I mean, I could ride on that road, you know. I mean, Indiana Street and Miami Drive, like, those are roads I could probably, you know, drive comfortably on. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity to play a good team, but not a team that's not beatable. Like, these teams have the opportunity to be beaten. So I'm saying Penn State, take your opportunities where you can, and just don't make mistakes that will tank. I mean, and you have a chance.
And the Penn State haters and the SEC bias people, if they were watching this, they would say we're crazy, but we're not. I mean, look at the numbers. Look at who we have. Look, we're favorable. It's a favorable schedule. At the same time, we could lose week 1 to Indiana. We could have a rough game. But I think Kolnicki, I think he's going to pull some tricks out of the bag. But my only thing is, he needs to keep those tricks in the bag when we just need a normal play to go. When it's 3rd and 2 or something, and you try to do some crazy dumb stuff. Like, just do a regular play most of the time and pull the tricks out of the bag when it's most, what's the word? When you have to do it. You know what I'm saying? When it's most convenient to use them on a very important drive, pull the tricks out. Don't just pull the tricks out on some random drive if we're up, you know? Do it if we're down and if it's a smart play. Like, I think he's going to pull some tricks out of the bag and keep us in some of these games. I think our defense is going to tighten up compared to last game. I think that was kind of a fluke. They got to call some holding calls. Let's just be honest here. It's freaking terrible. So I think our predictions were very. We only missed on one game. You have 2 games. You had Texas beating Notre Dame, and you had Oregon beating Ohio State. And I'm not mad at either. Both of those could happen. I just went a different route. And both routes are plausible on both ends. So I think we can almost wrap this up, man. I think we
absolutely
we get through. Yeah, I mean, we've been going on for a minute, and I don't know. No, I'm just saying. I think we talked it out, and very favorable schedule. If this is what it happens, it'll probably change up a little bit. I'm hoping it stays because I would love that bracket. That's a great bracket.
That is a great bracket. For that situation, if we want to get all the way, I think you're right. That is the right path for us to have. So wrapping it up, so you look at all the championship games that are about to go down. Are they slated? Like, is it pretty much guaranteed that who's in the SEC championship this week will have it next week? Or is there a scenario that if it happens, someone else gets in? Do you know, like, what it would be?
So for the SEC, if Texas, this is crazy. If Texas A&M beats Texas this weekend,
yes,
Texas A&M goes to the championship because they have a head-to-head win. Because Texas A&M might have 2 losses now, but guess what? One of those is to Notre Dame. That's out of conference. Crazy, right?
Yeah,
so if Texas A&M. So the only change that could possibly happen in the SEC right now is if Texas A&M beats Texas, which is possible. So watch out for that. That's a sneaky game. Texas would still make the playoff, and that would mess the whole bracket up probably because Texas
would mess everything up. It would mess everything up.
We almost want Texas to win, I think, because that would just mess everything up. So let's root for Texas this weekend. I think that would mess up.
We'd be yelling Jenga if that were to happen. We'd be yelling Jenga.
Yeah, it would be a Jenga. Sure. So that's the main thing for the SEC. That's something people aren't thinking about. Texas A&M could make it to the playoff because they can make it to the conference championship.
So wait, would that mean Texas A&M would take on Georgia?
Well, Texas A&M would have to. Yeah, they would have to win the championship. They'd have to play Georgia. Yeah.
But then what happens if they win? If Texas A&M wins,
that would be Jenga times 2. It would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
We build it up and then collapse again.
Unless the funniest thing could happen this weekend. Georgia Tech could knock off Georgia. That would just. Let's not even think about that.
I mean, they got a good record, but still, you're talking about potentially Texas A&M. They could happen. You're right, because you said they make some mistakes with quarterbacks. So
that's a Texas rivalry game in a way. I mean, Texas A&M, Texas. So crazy things have happened.
But is it slated that Ohio State takes on Oregon in Big Ten? Is that slated?
No. Listen to this, and this is what we don't want. If Michigan, I mean, I know Michigan just beat Northwestern by 45, but the fact that Michigan put up 50 points is pretty insane because that's the most they've scored all year, regardless of who they played. If Michigan somehow squeaks by Ohio State, let's just say if Michigan beats Ohio State, we go to the Big Ten championship and we play Oregon. We don't want that.
About throwing a monkey wrench into.
We want that for competitiveness to win a Big Ten championship, sure, but just Ohio State handle business, beat Michigan. This is better for our playoff hopes. For us to just take the week off, and it sounds like some wimp stuff, but that's what we want. We're trying to make we don't want to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship right now. We might play them in the Natty. We just talked about it.
I'm just saying. I'm hoping, bud. But no. So ACC championship, that's where it gets really messed up because there's Clemson, there's SMU, and there's Arizona State.
Did you say Wisconsin?
No, I said Arizona State. I said Clemson.
Clemson. You said Clemson. Yeah. I said Wisconsin.
Clemson, like, what? Yes. So you have Clemson, Miami, and Arizona. No, wait, where is Arizona State? Are they in the ACC or are they in the Mountain West? Forget.
Arizona State is in the Big 12, right? Wait.
Arizona State, I don't think they are.
Yeah. Wait. Arizona State.
No, you're right. You're right. They are the Big 12. You're right. You are right. So never mind. I'm not. Forget I said about the Arizona State. But it's ACC. It's Clemson, Miami, and
SMU.
SMU. Yeah.
So we don't know what's happening there yet. It's still up in the air. I think.
All right. I'm just trying to slate what do we have looking forward to these championship games? So
SMU is first in the conference right now. They have not lost in their conference because of who they played. Obviously, we went over that. But Clemson's only lost once. Miami's lost once.
Okay.
So wait, who does?
So this could not. So again, for what we're doing, what we're predicting, all of our scenarios, this could all be completely and totally spider-webbed up.
Disarray Jenga times 600. Yeah. So if Miami plays Syracuse, that shouldn't. I mean, crazier things have happened this weekend, and then Clemson plays whoever loses. Clemson plays South Carolina. Whoa. So Clemson has a much harder path to the title game because Clemson and basically, but what happens if Clemson and Miami both take care of business this weekend? They're going to have to go. I think what they do is they go on that team. They'll look at Clemson and say, what is the overall team's records that they beat? I think that's how they do it. And then they'll look at the other team. What is the overall record of the strength of the team that they beat? The teams that they beat, wins and loss record. You know what I'm saying? I think that's whoever will play SMU unless if SMU loses, then we're just in. total. Actually, SMU could lose and still make it. Think about it. They haven't
That's
lost
true.
in the
Yeah, because they're only one loss. Yep.
SMU does
So
not
they're
matter.
guaranteed to be the championship.
So if Clemson loses to South Carolina, Clemson's out, and it's Miami SMU.
Yep.
It's in disarray, man. So at this point.
So but here's the thing: if SMU upsets they're in the championship, if they take on Miami or Clemson and wins, I mean, dude, you're talking about 5 through 12 being completely flipped around for sure. I mean, we beat Maryland, just please, dude, just beat the snot out of them. Don't make it close. Just annihilate them. Just do everything you can against Maryland this weekend.
If you win by at least 14, that's fine. That's enough, That's enough. It's not great.
I went 3.
I want us to win by 40, and we can. They have some good receivers over there. So they have Ty Felton. He's Ty Felton's leading receiving yards almost. He's top 5. So
tough, but
so long story short, this is to be continued. The episode that we do next might be called Jenga ×2. It might be called that. We might actually have to title that Mark Lesko Podcast with Brett and Jared, Jenga ×2. That might be the title. We'll have to see. I'm hoping everybody takes care of business the way they should this weekend, and we get a similar bracket. But this is 2024 college football, and that might just not happen. So, I don't know.
Listen, I like the idea again of a spider web. I like an idea of a Pan's Labyrinth, kind of like a cornfield maze with Jenga in the middle of it. So we'll mix around with the name. All right. So I'm good to go if you are, bud.
All right, buddy. Yeah. I'm pretty beat. I work 10 hours, so.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna let All right. I'll let him know.
All right. And guys, thank you so much if you've been watching in and just tuning in. Thank you so much for watching the show, and we appreciate it every time you guys come on. So just like the page and always subscribe. So you guys enjoy yourselves. Until next time, you have yourselves a good one.